So yesterday y'all talked about percent and decimal to percent. Today we're going to be talking about a fraction to a decimal and a decimal to a fraction. Again, all fraction is so we're changing a fraction, so our numerator and our denominator, and we're changing it to a decimal. What does that fraction bar really mean? What operation does that fraction bar mean? Dividing. So we're going to keep that in the back of our mind. So our steps to changing a fraction to a decimal is that you divide the numerator, which was which number? Top. By the denominator, which was which number? The bottom. And then your quotient is your decimal. So just so we remember all of that, we've got our numerator and our denominator. That is the same as your numerator and our denominator, which is the same, can be looked like all of that. All of those three ways all mean the exact same thing. So I need you to do me a little bit of favor right now. I need you to take your two fingers and make like you're pinching somebody. You're not going to pinch somebody. Don't pinch somebody. And then I want you to put it up to your head. Everybody doing that? Okay. No, I'm not just being weird. I mean, I am kind of weird, but whatever. You are now going to you're going to take something out of your brain right now. You're going to take out the misconception that the bigger number goes on the inside. Take that out and throw it on the ground. Because I'll sweep up all this misconception a little bit later. So now that we've got that out of our brain, now we can go. Because remember, back at the little kids school, back at the intermediate, you probably always thought, oh, when I'm dividing this out, the bigger number is always going to go on the inside. Well, we're big kids now, and sometimes that's just not going to happen. Actually, more cases than not, it's not going to happen. All right, now let's look at some examples, now that we've got all that misconception thrown out everywhere. All right, so let's go over solving some problems. Examples. Now, if you write very big and you feel like that maybe this is not enough space, usually it's enough space for my first example. My second example I'm probably going to do on the back of my paper so that we have more room. Because when we divide, a lot of times, I know with me, my division kind of starts going down and then it swoops around. Because you start dividing and you go to the right, to the right, to the right, to the right, and then it starts kind of looping back around. So I usually run out of space. And then by the time I'm down there at the little, I'm like, I don't know what number goes where. Thankfully, I have to write slow whenever I'm teaching, so it's not as bad. Okay, so my first example we're going to use is going to be actually a very easy benchmark fraction. We've already talked about benchmark fractions. So I know that all of you will be able to tell me what 1/4 is as a decimal. What is 1/4 as a decimal? 25 hundredths or decimal to 5, correct? So we already know the decimal form of this fraction. But now let's talk about modeling this and showing my work so that I can show you how to show me. Help me help you. What movie is that from? Oh my gosh, y'all are aging me. Jerry Maguire, help me help you. I can't even. I gotta stop teaching when they don't know my movies. It's like, go YouTube Jerry Maguire, help me help you. He goes through this long ordeal. He's a sports agent and he is trying to talk to his one client about signing with this whatever, and he tells this super NFL person, help me help you. But it's really funny the way he goes. He does this big long rant and rave, And then he says that. All right, so now that I've got all off topic and this is going to be on YouTube, that's okay. Maybe Jerry Maguire will call me up and be like, hey, help me help you in your classroom. Hint, hint, if you know Jerry Maguire, go ahead and just send this video to him. All right. Okay, so we're going to show 1/4. Okay, so I'm going to follow my rules. Divide the numerator by the denominator. The numerator divided by the denominator. Everybody with me on that? Now, I'm going to ask myself, and I'm going to go step by step. You're going to hear me talking to myself. So, can 4 go into 1? No. So I'm going to put a 0 as my placeholder. 0 times 4 is 0. I subtract. Now, we're in big kids school, so we don't do these things called remainders. We keep dividing it till there is nothing left. So what can I do so that I have more numbers to bring down but not change the value? Mauser?
Put a decimal and
Very good. I can add a decimal and a 0. Does this still mean that it's 1? Is the value still 1? Yes. As soon as I add my decimal in my dividend, I'm going to move it right on up there and put it in my quotient. Want to do that so I don't forget, because sometimes I tend to forget that. Now I have another number that I can bring down. So I bring it on down. And I know if y'all don't know Jerry Maguire, y'all don't know that song. I can't think of the name of the show. A long time ago. But I'm not really that old. So, how many times can 4 go into 10? 2 times. 2 times 4 is 8. Subtract that, that's 2. What do I need to do now? Add another 0. I'm going to keep adding these zeros until one of 2 things happens. It becomes a repeating decimal, or it terminates. So now how many times can 4 go into 20? 5. Is my leftover 0? Yes, so that means I terminated. I'm stopped. So my decimal, my quotient is the quotient is your decimal. So 1/4 as a decimal is 0.25. I see that?
Yes, ma'am.
Not too bad, right? Awesome. All right, we're going to come back and work some examples in just a few minutes. So I'm going to let you stew on that a few minutes. And we're going to jump down to changing a decimal to a fraction. So if we come right on down here, because decimal to a fraction is super easy. I mean, not as easy as Pretty Dog Left Home or Dr. Pepper Right On, or Move It, Move It. But I don't have any cool songs for this one this time. I'm sorry. I hate to disappoint. So here we've got a decimal to a fraction. So our way of changing a decimal to a fraction is you are going to write it like you read it. Write it like you read it. So this is where my place values are going to come into handy. So just so that we can remember our place values, when we're talking about numbers to the right of the decimal, those are your tenths with the THs. So this would be my tenths, my hundredths. This is why I don't teach English, I teach just math. And then your thousandths. And then we go to 10,000ths and so forth, right? And then my very last step is always, 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 always simplify. Because if it's not simplified, it's wrong. So you read it you write it like you read it, and you simplify the fraction. So let's look at an example of what Crazy Miss Armstrong is talking about here. All right. So here is my examples. All right. How would you read this? No. How would you read it properly, like we're in big kids school? Go for it. Yes, ma'am. Very good. I would read it as 8 tenths. You don't really have to say that. I just have to overemphasize it. So I read it as 8 tenths. So I write it just like that. 8 tenths. Or hundredths. Or thousandths. Or 10,000ths. Now I have it in a fraction form, and all I need to do is simplify it. So I look at these two numbers and I say, what number can go into both 8 and 10?
2.
Say it.
5.
5 cannot go both into 8 and 10. Thank you. 2. 8 divided by 2 is?
4.
10 divided by 2 is?
5.
Because, can 4 over 5 be simplified anymore?
No.
So 8 tenths simplified into into a fraction is 4 fifths. All right, let's look at another one. 1.25. How do I read this properly? Go for it, ma'am.
1 and 25 hundredths.
Very good. 1 and 25 hundredths. Right? So how would I write that? What does that and mean? That tells me that there is a decimal or we have some whole numbers we're dealing with. So I would write it as 1 and 25 hundredths. And then I ask myself, can this fraction be simplified? Go for it.
Yes.
What can it be simplified by?
25.
It can be simplified by 25. Very good. Could I have simplified it by 5 first? Yes. And it will be 1 and 1/4. There is my simplified fraction or mixed number for 1 and 25 hundredths. Yes? All right. So I'm going to go ahead and up on the board, I'm going to write some additional examples that you're going to work out, and we'll talk about them. So